I thought I'd have a go at painting one of our horses. After all, how hard can it be? Of course, it turns out to be very hard indeed. Unless you're an artist, which I'm not, or practice for about 100 years, which I'm not going to do. So I had to cheat, and this is how I did it. The first thing is that horses, and any other living thing I guess, look most elegant and gorgeous when they're running about. But who can paint them then? They'd be all blurry. So I chose a clip we had and grabbed a frame from it. Then I looked and looked and looked at this photo. That's Winnie, by the way, happy to be let into a new field. I used a drawing package to scribble away on top of the photo, adding and subtracting shadows and learning where the hollows and muscles are. Of course, you could also use tracing paper. I'm going to paint with ink, because those wonderful Japanese and Chinese ink paintings are just glorious and full of life, and they look really quick to do. Plus, with ink, you don't have to think about colour, because there is only one colour. The trouble is you do have to think hard about the other things, the shape and the tone and the brush strokes. Anyway, so I decided on 3 basic tones, light, medium and dark, and scribbled away on the photo until I had them mapped out. This process was really interesting and it taught me a lot. Now I think those Japanese artists did the same thing. They learned how to paint one particular design, like a horse or a fish. They probably worked and worked on the design, painting them over and over again till they were perfect. But they weren't painting a live horse. They were painting a design based on a live horse. Anyway, with the magic of computers, I can now see my design. Some people print their design out and paint over it. Others sketch with a pencil or trace it to make sure it's all in proportion on the paper. But I'm using my projector. I had to hang the projector from a pole and have the paper on the floor. But at least this way, the design is going to fit and it will stay in proportion. You can't buy a bottle of ink in our town, but I did get a bargain pack of cartridges and some really cheap brushes. I found the flat ones were best. Part of the appeal of this type of painting is the fluidity and spontaneity of the brushstrokes. But you can only do that if you go for it with speed. Now you know where you want your ink. Use the biggest brush you can and slop it on. No hesitating, no dithering, just slop it on. Which brings me to the next thing I learned. Most of what I painted was complete rubbish. At least it was only good in some parts. I slapped the ink on too thick, too thin, in the wrong place, or the wrong mix, or I used the wrong brush. So I made lots of paintings on the cheapest paper I could buy. That way I could merrily screw up painting after painting and not worry about what it was costing me. None of these paintings took more than 2 or 3 minutes. And as soon as they were done, I could see all the many faults they had. Lines too thick, too messy, too dry, whatever. Of course, mostly what I learned was that those old painters were masters at what they did, and I am in absolute awe of them. But by using cheat number 6, I could still make a passable present for Sandra. I cut some strips for the top and bottom and stained them with the same ink so they matched. And there we have it. Ta-da! I also painted a crow.